In an RPG game, a player's avatar known by the moniker the Other World's Hero faces off against a mid-boss villain NPC named Arachne, one of the Demon King's elite 4 demons. She informs him that she won't let the Demon King have him because she plans to use him as her puppet. The player knows there is no problem if they don't defeat the mid-boss in a speedrun, so he decides to skip the fight using a bug. A few hours later at the RTA summit in the city of Tokyo, the player reached the final glitch of the game and defeated the final boss in a record time of 25 minutes and 56 seconds. Everyone watching began to cheer for him as he was crowned the Another Verse world record holder for the RTA competition. The player's name is Shachiku Taite. RTA, Real-Time Attack, is a competition about playing a game from the start and seeing how fast you can clear the game. In RTA, while excellent play is given, certain cheat moves, such as running on the railings even though a player isn't supposed to, wall clipping, soft resetting to skip scenes, or continuing the game while the menu background is active, are methods used to clear the game quickly. These methods exploit software bugs. At the stage, the host comments about how the average playtime to clear the game is over 100 hours, and he didn't believe a day would come when Another Verse would be cleared in 25 minutes. The host asks Taite what he would reward himself with when he goes home for the day, but Taite gives an anticlimactic answer about having weekend work on his boss's orders. Amongst the comments about his gameplay, the one that really hurt Taite was criticism for missing a final glitch. As he plays the game at home, he notes that even though he has practiced over 1,000 times, the final glitch's success rate can't go over 30%. While playing the game, he suddenly becomes sleepy and falls asleep. Taite suddenly regains consciousness after being transported to a strange place. As he stands, he hears some strange people mumbling about how the summoning is a success, and they shower thanks on a woman they call the Sky Goddess. Just as Taite begins to wonder where he is, a lady in fine clothing steps forward, introducing herself as Ada, the kingdom's princess and the saintess of salvation. She explains to him that she summoned him due to the great summoning from beyond, which occurs once every 100 years. She pleads with him to lend her his strength, and explains that the world is threatened by the evil demon lord and his 4 demons. At that moment, Taite suddenly realizes that the exact lines the princess is speaking are the same as the opening cutscene for Another Verse. He starts to believe that he is probably dreaming about the game because he's been playing it for a long time. However, he remembers that he has always played the game in third-person view, not first-person, as he always gets motion sickness when using first-person view. He wonders if he mistakenly chose a first-person POV in the settings. Strangely, he notices that his limbs are moving to his own will, just like in real life. He decides that if he is indeed dreaming, he might as well speedrun. Just as the princess is about to hand over the holy sword to him, he suddenly dashes out of the palace. The princess asks her guards to stop him, but she is shocked to see him suddenly phase through the wall. As Taite continues to run, he notes that the first step of speedrunning is ignoring the holy sword and escaping from the castle by wall clipping. He knows that he doesn't even need the holy sword to beat the bosses, and that it's most important to skip the tutorial event on how to use the holy sword. Back at the palace, Ada disguises herself as Danya, a normal civilian. She usually disguises herself as Danya when she wants to leave the palace so she won't draw attention to herself. As Danya begins to chase after Taite, Taite continues to speedrun. On the way, he spots Jane, the capital's Adventurer Guild member. Jane offers to show him how things work around the capital, but Taite suddenly avoids him and continues to run off, saying he has no interest. Taite knows that skipping Jane is the hardest part in the early game, because if a player is caught by the meddlesome Jane, the town guiding tutorial will start. However, by doing a side jump step with good timing, a player can completely avoid it. The timing is really hard, so most of the time new speedrunners always end up getting stuck there. While Jane is famous among normal players, it's a time loss of at least 4 minutes if a speedrunner gets caught. Danya meets Jane and asks if he has seen Taite. Jane informs her that Taite went to the North Gate. Danya is worried that Tante might get harmed, since they waited 100 years for his summoning, and it would be really terrible if he died now. As Danya starts to leave, Jane calls out to her, tearfully asking if he is really that terrible, since it's the first time someone has rudely ignored him like a suspicious door-to-door seller. Danya apologizes to him before leaving. Danya catches up to Taite as he reaches the Forest of the Dead, but she hides behind some bushes to watch him secretly. She is shocked when Taite suddenly starts stripping down to his underwear, picks up a stick, and runs towards the undead herd. Danya wonders what he might be thinking. The situation becomes even more gruesome when the undead gather around him and start biting him. Taite uses his stick to knock the zombies away one by one, seemingly unfazed by their bites. He calls it intentional damage and declares that from now on, he will pass through this section without getting hurt. He starts running again, and Danya suddenly emerges from her hiding place, asking him to wait. She lies, claiming to be Ada's messenger, and reminds him that he forgot the holy sword. She also warns him that he needs to get healed or he'll die from his wounds. She offers to cast a healing spell on him, but he runs off even faster, saying he can still make it in time. Taitei notes the speedrun is in easy mode, and in this mode, the early game has a balancing adjustment. The less health a player has when they race through the Forest of Dead, the weaker the enemies become, including the bosses. Therefore, in a speedrun, players aim to take as much damage as possible in the area. This is why Taitei wears only underwear, as shirts and pants increase his defenses, which currently he needs to reduce. Suddenly, Danya catches up with him again, offering to heal him. Taitei recalls that in the game, Danya is always an ally of the protagonist, but she poses an obstacle to his speedrunning mission, so he decides to sprint out of the forest at maximum speed. However, Danya continues to chase after him, determined to heal him. Eventually, Danya catches up and heals him. She pleads with him to wear proper equipment because one of the Elite Four demons, the puppet master Arachne, is in the castle ahead. Taitei ignores her and runs off again, but he notices that Danya's dialogue is different from what he remembers, and he wonders if he is still dreaming. Taitei is suddenly confronted by Arachne's familiar, a giant spider. Danya yells at him to run away, knowing he will surely die dressed only in his underwear. Surprisingly, Taitei begins to glitch, moving at incredible speed. He stabs the spider multiple times with his stick, much to Danya's astonishment, and soon the spider splits in half and dies. Taitei explains this technique is called a rod glitch. By continuously hitting the mini-boss at specific points with a wooden stick, the stick's attack power is bugged, and multiplies to 1024 permanently. The Holy Sword only has an attack power of 60, making it far inferior to the stick. Danya is confused by Taitei's explanation. After defeating the spider, Taitei receives a strengthening buff red potion drop. He considers himself lucky, as the item drop there is usually quite useless due to RNG. He then decides to head into the castle. When he comes face to face with Arachne, she recognizes him as the hero from another world. She tells him she wants him because she has always wondered if humans from another world would make better puppets than the ones in her own. She declares she won't let the Demon King have him, and that she will make him her puppet. Taitei ignores Arachne and uses a bug to face through the wall. Arachne wonders where he suddenly went, and one of her puppets informs her he went through the wall. She yells at her underlings, commanding them to find him. Danya continues to search the wall, trying to discover where and how exactly Taitei phased through. Suddenly, she also phases through the wall and emerges on the other side. Taitei keeps running and declares that now he has the strongest stick, he can ignore the remaining 3 members of the Elite Four and go straight to the final boss fight. He recalls that behind the wall is a crazy warp bug, and jumping off the cliff will take him to the deepest part of the last boss's dungeon. Normally, there is a fall detection zone there, but there is one point where it doesn't work. Danya catches up to him and demands to know what he is planning, because he's been messing around since the beginning. She reminds him he is supposed to be the Otherworld hero destined to defeat the Demon King, and that if he truly is the Otherworld hero, he should save the world properly. Taitei tells Danya that to clear the game, he doesn't need to fight the mid-bosses. According to the game's rules, they have to minimize time loss, which is why he would be faster in defeating the Demon King. Taitei and Danya arrive at the target point and both jump down the cliff. While descending, Taitei uses a buff potion and reflects on how well things have been going for him. He managed to skip Jane's tour and acquired a powerful rod. He's amazed at his progress, considering he was initially biased against a first-person perspective. Moreover, he even had the chance to act cool in front of an NPC like Danya. However, it suddenly hits him that Danya's comment about him messing around was never part of the game's original dialogue. He then wonders if he can clear the game faster and break his own record this time, but remembers there's no point since he's still dreaming. At exactly 15 minutes and 30 seconds, he finally encounters the Demon King, Apocalypse. When Apocalypse tries to initiate dialogue, Taitei immediately uses a bug to skip it and attacks straight away. He notes that the early part of the final boss fight has no tech glitches. He just needs to avoid the 3 tentacles and hit Apocalypse 3 times with a buffed stick. However, the last boss is strong, and a speedrunner who maximizes attack at the expense of health will die in a single hit. As Danya watches the battle, she is amazed that Taitei is overwhelming the Demon King just 30 minutes after leaving the castle. After landing the 3rd hit, the Demon King enters his 2nd phase. Taitei tells Danya that the first phase is actually harder, because in the 2nd phase, after Apocalypse shoots a beam or swings his tentacles 4 times, the player can clear the game by hitting his head core when he falls. However, Taitei doesn't fully understand all he is explaining. Taitei then confesses about the most difficult glitch to minimize time, which he discovered and named after himself, the Shachiku Step. He recalls failing it at the RTA summit, but hopes to succeed this time. He informs Danya the apocalypse will attack with random patterns, and using the glitch depends highly on luck, so he asks her to pray for him. Pray is a slang term for when the runner needs the fans' cheers for random events or difficult techniques. Apocalypse swings his tentacles at Taitei, who notes that it is a vertical attack as expected. He anticipates a horizontal attack next, which would allow him to set up the fastest Shachiku Step. However, Apocalypse instead fires his beam in an unexpected pattern, before switching to a horizontal attack. Taitei wonders if Danya is responsible for the Demon King's change in attack pattern, speculating that Danya's prayers might stabilize the Demon King's attacks. He decides to investigate this theory, and report to the Anverse study group when he wakes up. Suddenly, Taitei starts running on the wall, surprising Danya. Taitei explains that the polygon faces on the ivy vines are bugged, allowing a player to run on them normally. The hard part comes next, stepping on an extremely small piece of falling debris just a few pixels in size, and matching the angle and timing precisely frame by frame to reach the head core. Taitei successfully uses the Shachiku steps, launching himself at the Demon King and striking its core at exactly 24 minutes and 53 seconds, clearing the mission. Danya praises Taitei for fulfilling the mission, and confesses her real identity is actually Princess Ada. She reveals that once she returns to her normal form, she will seal away the roots the Demon King was protecting, bringing eternal peace to the world. Taitei is impressed he completed the game in the 24th minute, believing it to be the fastest run ever. He also thinks he might be able to finish it even faster next time, thanks to the glitch involving Danya that he discovered. However, he soon notices the ending scene isn't starting. The situation worsens when Danya informs him that she has lost the ability to transform back to her normal self. Taitei is distraught because he knows that if Ada can't return to her normal form, the game's ending scene won't trigger. He wonders why the game isn't ending after he defeated the final boss. Finally, he realizes he is now stuck in the Anverse world and cannot return. Taitei and Danya return to the capital city of Falshla. Danya goes to the tailor's shop, where the tailor greets her and asks what type of skirt she wants. As she clarifies that the skirt isn't for her, Taitei suddenly appears through the wall and says hello. Later, the duo heads to a restaurant for a meal, with Taitei now fully clothed in adventurer's gear that boosts his defenses. Danya warns him to avoid doing anything flashy in the capital. He responds he's just acting normally, but she accuses him of lying. Taitei snaps his fingers and tells Danya that he is ensured no one can hear them. He explains that his entrance through the wall at the tailor's shop was due to a bug that prevented him from using the door. Using clear data from the bugs, it has become impossible for him to enter some buildings through doors. He finds it inconvenient, but thinks entering through the walls was a solution. However, Danya insists that this is a major problem. She dismisses his talk of glitches as nonsense. Taitei has already explained to Danya that she is a character in a game called Another Verse, and that he is very familiar with it. He knows that explaining this won't harm either of them, but he is unsure if she fully understands yet. Danya tells him that what he said is hard to believe, but she admits that she can't deny what she saw with her own eyes. Taitei responds that glitches are like magic. She replies that she can't confirm the consumption of magic power or any blessing of spirits, so it's clearly different from magic, appearing as something outside the logic of the world. She concludes that it must be some kind of external power. She then speculates that maybe the reason she can't return to being Ada is because he used glitches to defeat the Demon King. This statement surprises Taitei, who explains that he really thought he was in a dream. He adds that he has heard if a player uses glitches to defeat the Demon King, the ending might be bugged. However, in the 1,000 times he's speedrun the game, he's never seen a bug where Ada cannot revert back. He knows that with the glitches he always uses, that sort of thing isn't supposed to happen. While the previous entrance bug was within expectations, the Ada bug was completely unexpected. Therefore, he believes he probably isn't the cause of what's happening. Danya tells him that if what he is saying is true, it means that not only is she unable to revert to being Ada, but also that a method to undo everything that has happened is beyond his expectations. Taitei falls silent for a moment, then telling her he has one idea: giving the game its true ending. He explains that while a player can clear the game by defeating only the Demon King and receiving the normal ending, defeating all 4 elites and completing special conditions reveals the true ending. He clarifies that his explanation is rough, but believes that since the true ending would create the second loop data programmatically, all variables will reset to normal when the ending starts, clearing the effects caused by the glitches. Danya is even more confused by this explanation. and her head begins to spin. Taitei summarizes by saying that reaching the true ending of the game would erase the bugs, allowing Danya to fully transform back to Ada. He then wonders if he will still be able to return to his world even if Danya succeeds in transforming back. Danya tells him that if she reverts to being Ada, she can use magic, crossing time, just like she did when she summoned him. She explains that as long as he remains connected to his previous world, he can always return to it. She then admits it was wrong to involve him in their affairs, and apologizes for summoning him so suddenly. However, Taitei reassures her not to feel sorry, because he loves the world of Onverse. But since there's a lot of work piling up at home and he wants to compete with his friends for the record, he needs to return quickly. He adds that although he is still uncertain if this is dream or reality, coming to Onverse made him happy. However, he tells her that sitting still makes him restless because he has always been speedrunning, except for his first 10 clears. Even now, he feels like the timer is still running. After their meal, the duo decides to head to the Adventurers Guild to gather information about any recent incidents. Danya advises Taitei not to tell anyone about his great deeds. She shows him something in the sky that looks like a tree's root, and informs him that is the root of evil that the Demon King is protecting. She explains that all monsters are born from the source of evil and attack humans as embodiments of evil. Despite defeating the Demon King, Danya says she can't seal the roots of evil without Ada's power, because the threat of monsters remains. She emphasizes that until true peace is secured, they shouldn't let people become complacent. Taitei asks if he can go to the item shop, and she says it's fine. When he tries to enter the shop through the door and fails, he enters through the wall instead, but Danya yells at him to stop. Taitei continues to reflect on the fact that he is really inside the Onverse game. He then shifts his thoughts to how smart Danya is, noting that even when he mumbled about meta stuff, she seemed to understand him. He also observes that her speech is flexible for an NPC. He recalls telling her that they should aim for the true ending of the story, but he realizes this assumption is based on the premise that the world operates like the game. He starts to wonder if he is somewhere else instead of inside the game. As they continue walking, they spot a guard riding a giant flying bird and blowing a horn. The guard announces that a flying monster called the Wyvern, which possesses magical erosion powers, has breached the barrier and is approaching the city. He orders everyone to run and hide. In no time, the dragon-like Wyvern reaches the main city and begins to rampage. Just as Danya starts to charge up her magical power, she is shocked to see the Wyvern suddenly caught in an explosion. She is even more surprised to find out that Taitei is responsible for defeating the Wyvern, using only a normal slingshot and a pair of firecrackers in just a few seconds. Taitei explains that the slingshot he purchased from the item shop helped him achieve an easy victory. He mentions the town being targeted by the Wyvern is an event that consistently occurs the second time a player enters the capital. Having engaged in normal challenges before starting speedrunning, he is familiar with both fixed and main events. As he details how he utilized rapid vibration movements to execute a swift attack and defeat the monster in one go, Danya interrupts him, scolding him for using glitches so openly in public. Taitei defends his actions, suggesting it was prudent to eliminate the threat quickly to prevent any danger. However, the bystanders in the streets had already witnessed his unusual movements, and began murmuring about how unnatural they were for a human. Suddenly, the tailor arrives, and identifies Taitei as the person who earlier passed through his shop wall. Perplexed bystanders inquire about this, prompting the tailor to recount how Taitei had visited his shop wearing only underwear, and paid to acquire some clothes. The villagers come against Shachiku, stating he has to be a demon. Danya holds them back, stating that they all need to calm down, but they don't see how they could. They believe that the Wyvern also has to be Shachiku's inside job, as humans don't go around vibrating the way he has. Danya panics. Of course they'd be suspicious. This is all because of Shachiku's glitches. An old lady steps up and asks them to stop being so paranoid. The person that they've come up against is actually the Otherworld hero. They must have forgotten so soon that the announcement came from the castle the other day, stating that Ada had summoned a hero after 100 years, a strength beyond human understanding. And looking at Shachiku now, perhaps he is that Otherworld hero. Shachiku steps up to the title, stating that the old lady is right, but the people are still in denial. They believe it has to be a demon pretending to be a hero to scam them. They tell the old lady that she should not be fooled. The old lady, irritated, yells back that Shachiku is definitely not a demon. She knows when she sees a demon, and Shachiku is not one of them. Her hometown was overtaken by demons. Her younger sister was killed by a monster right in front of her, and her face was burned off when she was just a young girl. Yikes. Thinking of all of this now, she shivers as she continues. The shock she received from the torture back then awakened in her a skill, the ability to distinguish demons and humans. And once again, what she can boldly state is that the young man standing in front of them doesn't have any of that cruel aura that demons have. The old lady acknowledges Shachiku's presence in a different way from the scorning villagers. She takes Shachiku's hand and states she has been waiting for him. She doesn't want to be afraid anymore, and wants Shachiku to give them a world without monsters. The old lady's wish was according to this scenario. The old lady's village was taken over 50 years ago by the Demon King Elite 4, Arachne. It seemed like there was a horrific massacre, but since then it's still under Arachne's control. They can only speculate about the actual casualties. The old lady's story was definitely in Anverse settings. However, it's more heart-wrenching compared to how it was looking through the screen. Shachiku couldn't even think of anything to say, even though it's a scene he's played through a lot. There are many people on the continent with similar circumstances. As long as the roots of evil are not sealed, that number will continue to rise. Danya says this because she wants Shachiku to defeat the Demon King. However, she herself has still not fulfilled her task. She can't even do anything when it counts so much for the Saintess of Salvation. Shachiku does not think Danya has a reason to feel so lonely about herself because he's still being saved by Danya. And he's not just talking about the game, but Danya has always followed behind the hero. When he saw something like a dark dungeon similar to one from a horror game, it was quite scary at first. But by thinking that Danya is always with him, it eased his fear a lot. Even in this situation right now, he's able to stay calm because Danya is always by his side. He tags himself a fan of Danya because he loves Danya very much. Even in the fans' popularity poll, Danya is always in unshakable first place, while Ada is 8th, so Danya can rest assured that there's no way she has no value compared to Ada. Danya is in shock about this popularity hierarchy. How can a hero like Ada be in 8th place? Shachiku goes on to say that from what he tested today, he knows that he can use all these glitches just like with the game, so the world has to be operating on the same program as Anverse. He wants to go to the guild tomorrow, and Danya needs to clarify what exactly he is saying, as it felt like he was abusing things for no reason. He clarifies that she would definitely be able to return back to being Ada, but first they need to save the world with the true ending. They fist-pumped to that, but Danya wants to know why she's been tagged with the name that he has tagged her, and he explains that's a conversational habit among otakus. At the Adventurers Guild Ada's shield, it's reported back to Jean that a magical erosion level 4 wyvern's casualty has taken place. Both human casualties and material damage are at 0. This provokes him, and he starts getting aggressive with the messenger, stating he's slacking on the investigation. Nya steps in then, wanting to know what the fuss is about. The Capital Adventurers Guild member of Ada's shield named Jean is there when Shachiku and Danya walk into the guild, and he stands there as if he's been waiting for them, and waiting to say the cliché line of how bold they are for showing their face here at the guild, especially after ignoring him the previous day. Either way, he hopes that they're ready. Shachiku apologizes for earlier, humbly stating that Jean did nothing wrong and it was simply a spinal reflex. This confuses Jean, so Shachiku goes on to explain that just from seeing Jean's face, his past mistakes would always flash back to him. Jean is even more confused, wondering what past mistakes Shachiku is referring to. Shachiku waves off his talk, saying it is unrelated, and Jean can just pretend to have not heard that in the first place. Jean has an inner monologue, reflecting on how Shachiku seeing his face makes him remember something he regrets. Maybe someone important to him was assaulted by monsters right in front of his eyes, and Jean's face perhaps reminds Shachiku of someone like his brother. Maybe he blames himself for being too inexperienced to protect his brother in the past. Emotional, Jean apologizes, and states he might not know the details, but Shachiku can go ahead and call him Big Bro. Danya knows that there's definitely a misunderstanding between the two, but it isn't her place to say anything. On to more pressing matters, they would like to talk to the guildmaster, Nya. The master is out at the moment, and is most likely requesting permission to take on the Elite Four, since it seems like there's also the Otherworld hero. Shachiku realizes that Jean doesn't know that this Otherworld hero is actually him. Jean asks if they will be registering with the guild, and Shachiku acknowledges that he would need one. Jean welcomes them to Ada's shield, where the main guild reception is. Mirin, who orients them, explains that Ada's shield is Capital Falshla's Adventurers Guild. While Adventurers Guilds are present in each city, Ada's shield is the main administrator of all guilds throughout the kingdom. She hands over their registration badges and explains that with these, they can undertake quests in all cities including the capital. By completing quests, they can increase their rank and undertake even harder quests. While normally they would need to undergo an exam to register, they're exempted on Danya's recommendation, which Jean acknowledges as good luck, as their exam is really hard, as by their name they're backed by Ada the Queen, and their credibility is top-notch, and having a registration badge from them means a free pass through any city's customs. These are all good advantages to Shachiku, although he already knows everything because he's an Anvers otaku, so he's read the official guide. Jin goes on to boast that life is good at their guild, and the quest rewards are relatively high, and best of all, once per year, Queen Ada would come personally to encourage them. In fact, there are some folks who come to them just because of Queen Ada's presence. Danya mentions that since Ada's shield is practically the capital's vigilante core, it's only appropriate to reward her. Miran states that there's no way Ada would be a good match with someone like Jean, so he can well stop dreaming so hard. Plus, they're in the middle of registering someone, so she would prefer if he doesn't go about interrupting her with his baseless crush. Shachiku thinks that dialogue exchanges between the game's characters are now more realistic than the game, and Anvers has elaborate settings for the NPCs, to the point of being a bit abnormal. It's that kind of attention to detail that makes for lively immersion. Even the sub-quests that can be taken at the guild feel more like being immersed deeper into the world instead of feeling like work, and is also the best from a hardcore gameplay perspective. He's been shivering because he wanted to speedrun so much, but Anvers is too much fun. Miran tells him to hold his hand out over the crystallization device and asks for his name, which he gives. Jean states it's a rare name, but Miran feels it's quite a refreshing and exotic name. The name he used for his speedrun streams is reflected, and from what they can see, he's a level 1. How to level up will have to be addressed later. In the meantime, they have to proceed with the registration process. And for this, Miran would need Jean's help. Danya asks Shachiku if at any point he defeated the Demon King while still being a level 1, and Shachiku confirms that he has, since there's the speedrun route. But Danya is more irritated than happy to hear about the whole speedrunning thing again. Anvers' speedrun is called Miraculous Revolution. Speedrunning is racing through a game alone, and while it looks like sole competition, it's a team sport in his opinion. While they do fight over the rankings with rivals, for things like new discoveries or glitch tips, they share information cooperatively. Since Anvers is a game popular worldwide, there are 500 runners in the world, and there's around 30 people in Japan. The rules for Anvers' any % speedrun are just to beat the last boss as fast as possible. However, the last boss has a crazy amount of HP and strength. The time it takes in order to get the minimum possible equipment in order to defeat the Demon King is the most important problem in any % speedrun. At first, it was 8 hours when they still did proper leveling. At that point, they could still use the Holy Sword. After a while, they decided that taking a shortcut and going for the weapon with the largest attack and whacking the Demon King with that was faster. The route where they did enough leveling to breach the Demon King's castle was around the 4 hours mark. After that, they found things like the wall clip into Adakan's castle, and the mysterious warp to the last dungeon boss. But even though they found many glitches, the 2-hour wall was too high to climb over. And then coming in like a comet, they found a broken weapon with 1024 attack. The Strange Rod, a crazy glitch that was found for the first time 3 years after the game's release. Now he wants to show it to Danya. How impactful that was to the Anvers study group. So after that, with the power-friendly rivalry and thanks to the strongest wooden stick, they could beat the Demon King in 25 minutes even at level 1. Even though the difficulty shot up explosively, because it's easier for the Demon King to kill them when they don't level up. Truth be told, Danya doesn't understand anything that was just said, and neither do we. But all the same, the Guildmaster Kira chooses them to come up. She's the strongest warrior in the Anvers Kingdom, and Shachiku has not seen her at all in speedruns, so it's been a while. And then there's the usual problematic character design. He was happy because she was sexy even through the screen, but now that she's in front of his eyes, it's more perplexing than sexy. But with the way Shachiku keeps looking at her, Danya gets the wrong ideas, so he clarifies he has no bad thoughts. Just to confirm, Danya wants to make known her relationship with Kira. Kira is Ada's best friend, and one of the few people to know Danya's true identity. Mira notices that Kira seems to be in a bad mood, and Jean wonders if going to the castle put her in such a mood. Kira asks who the guy with the Danya is, so he introduces himself, stating that from today onwards he will be a member of the guild, and an outer world hero. Now it's clear to Jean who Shachiku is, and Miran understands why his level was so perplexing. Kira refers to him as the coward from another world, especially after appraising his level at 1. She's heard the story back at the castle. Even though Ada had successfully summoned the hero lost his nerves and abandoned the mission, running away without even taking the Holy Sword. Nya, also known as Kira, gets apprehended by Danya, who states she's getting it all wrong. Kira doesn't want Danya to start covering up for people of this outlandish world. She feels the guild does not need a level 1 weakling, nor cowards, and wants a duel to prove that he is a so-called hero. Miran and Jean are terrified by the hostility building up, and they feel they have to stop it, but Kira tells them to relax. She'll use a wooden sword and go easy on him. Jean pleads with Kira, but she is not listening. She even teases Shachiku for the stick he carries instead of a sword, which he is very proud of. He states he wouldn't be a man if he backed down, even against Danya's protests. The stick has 1024 attack, the strange rod that slew the Demon King. If he uses it on a human, it might be catastrophic. Danya pleads with Shachiku that Kira is her very best friend, and he promises he will resolve it instantly. Before the duel begins, Danya bursts into tears for her friend Kira. Kira teases that she thought Shachiku would have run away by now, considering it's still between his legs. He jokes back that he doesn't have a tail. How prudent. At least she gives him credit for his courage. But now it's time to get serious. Her signature skill is Goddess's Blessing, called Valkyrie Suite Etude. Her armor turns white as she uses the skill, which concerns Miran and Jean. It's a special skill bestowed by the goddess to enhance human capabilities, doubling strength and speed. Simple, yet effective. Despite Kira's superhuman sword skills, it becomes clear that Shachiku is on another level. No matter how many lives Kira has, it's impossible for her to win. Danya cries out for her friend to stop. Kira tells Danya to quit whining, questioning her attachment to the weakling so soon. On guard, Shachiku closes the gap instantly, and Kira reacts quickly, aiming to move faster. In an instant, it appears he's lost, crashing into a wall. He looks beaten up as if he's about to collapse. Jean rushes to get potions, and Miran instructs Danya to attend to him. Well, that was pathetic. Shachiku explains it was a forced loss event. In gaming terms, a forced loss event is scripted so that no matter how hard you try, you're set up to lose due to plot reasons. In this case, choosing the dialogue option admitting to Kira that you're the otherworld adventurer during their first meeting at the Adventurers Guild triggers the event. From a speedrunning perspective, the fastest option is to approach Kira within the first 4 frames and execute a strong attack for a knockout. He recovers, and Danya expresses disappointment that he didn't actually strike her friend with the strange rod. Shachiku reassures her that for a friend as important to Danya as Kira, there's no way he could harm her in front of Danya. That's why he acknowledged their friendship. Miran rushes back with potions, but sees that Shachiku is miraculously already healthy, so they won't be needing those anymore. Even Kira asks if he lost on purpose, noting he completely saw through her attack. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to counter it. Someone who can do that must either be her equal or a warrior even greater. She needs to understand why. This leads to a dialogue that isn't even in the game. Shachiku is confused as he can't say it's to save time, so he tells her he had no reason to defeat Kira because she's not his enemy. They are friends who will defeat the Demon King together. She decides not to warm up to him just yet, teasing him a bit. They both apologize for their earlier rudeness. Shachiku suggests that it would be good if they could become friends. Kira decides she'll do her best to work with him from now on. She acknowledges Danya, now asking about what she wanted to talk about earlier, requesting that they come to her room together with Shachiku. Jean wants to go too, but the guildmaster prefers they return to their duties. She has one piece of advice though. The world has pinned its hopes on the otherworld hero to defeat the Demon King. The people and Ada expect great things from him, but Kira, born in this world, has her pride, and has devoted her life to honing her swordsmanship since the age of 5, forsaking her noble upbringing for this cause. She's determined to be the one to defeat the Demon King. Shachiku reveals that he already has defeated the Demon King, which crushes Kira. She thinks it's a cruel joke and can't believe how quickly it happened. Danya confirms the battle concluded the previous day, just 25 minutes after he was summoned. Shachiku explains about speedrunning in his other world, where competition focuses on defeating the Demon King as fast as possible. It all sounds absurd to Kira, who reports back to Danya that Shachiku must be insane. Crushed, she knows Danya wouldn't lie about the Demon King's defeat, which sheds light on recent incidents. Danya asks about the incident, and Kira explains that shortly after the hero summoning ritual, there was a roar from Arachne Castle in the north. It's nearby, so news reached the capital via reports from the Red Lion group. Arachne's spider familiars have been spotted, seemingly searching for something among the Demon King's Elite Four. Arachne, known for her cruel and manipulative nature, has been slaughtering for pleasure for the past 50 years. Those she kills become puppets controlled by her strings and poison. What's more disturbing is that those under her control awaken their given skills involuntarily. While Kira awakened the skill she desired through sword training, humans can awaken in extreme situations thanks to their goddess, with powers ranging from legendary to ordinary. Arachne particularly targets beautiful girls to awaken their skills, creating special puppets from those with exceptional abilities. Shachiku realizes that the old lady who can communicate with the demons might have been one of Arachne's victims 50 years ago. Fortunate not to become a puppet, but still deeply affected. It's all sickening. Stepping outside the capital in Anvers exposes a world ruled by cruel demons where humans are at their mercy. The Elite Four possess immense power, and only obey the stronger Demon King. But if the Demon King is already defeated, Kira doesn't know what's going to happen next. She believes that if they don't act fast, it's a different situation, especially considering that Arachne's stronghold is in the capital suburbs, as well as her short temper and impulsivity compared to the other elite foes. They dispatched spies as of yesterday, but she might attack faster than they can report, possibly even tomorrow. Kira fears they can't afford to delay a moment longer. They would need to deploy the royal army today or tomorrow at the latest, but first they must convince the elder sages. Eagerly, Shachiku suggests they should strike before Arachne reaches them, advocating for an immediate confrontation. He starts trembling, leaving Kira bewildered, but Danya understands. He's shaking because he wants to speedrun. He explains that he holds a world record in the true ending category, and has never had to reset for Arachne, with split times consistently under 15 minutes. Danya asks him to explain in simpler terms, so he clarifies. If they speedrun the confrontation with Arachne, they can defeat her in just 15 minutes. It sounds unbelievable to Kira, but he continues, stating that given the circumstances, they need to prioritize safety over time, but will require Kira's support. Though the plan is incomprehensible, Danya asks her best friend to just trust him. Against her better judgment, Kira decides to trust the odd boy. He declares that they need to prepare properly, announcing he's heading to the tailor and the item shop near Arachne's castle. Despite the horrors of Arachne torturing humans without hesitation, Shachiku daydreams, skipping gleefully through the streets, carefree and unconcerned. As has recently become a habit, Kira and Danya are left puzzled by Shachiku's actions. Right now, the hero from the other world is digging for jewels in the Skuva abandoned mines, in search of the shining scale ore as opposed to breaking rocks, which is the usual way they're familiar with. He finally finds one, and then he informs them they're finally clear to start racing the next day. Danya wonders just how many rocks she's smashed when she could have just dug. Again, Shachiku confuses them with his words, explaining how finding these shining ores used to be a lot easier before the update. Kira, looking as serious as ever, points out that shining scale ores are hardly valuable for use in weaponry, and they can only fetch a high price when used in decoration. Just then, an Orthis, a two-headed wolf, emerges from the bushes, moving to attack them. Kira steadies herself, ready to fight against the monster. Surprisingly, her help isn't needed, as Shachiku swings his wooden stick and defeats the monster in one swing. However, he also notes that he doesn't fancy the rate at which they encounter monsters at nighttime. Kira is stunned at how Shachiku managed to defeat such a monster with just one swing of what isn't even considered a weapon. She concedes that this must be the superior power of the hero from the other world. Shachiku suggests they immediately return to the guild, but Kira points out that he forgot to take the magic stone from the monster he just defeated. She reveals that in this world, people level up by purifying magic stones taken from defeated monsters. Danya also notes that he didn't take magic stones off monsters after defeating them in the past. Kira, while admitting that his battle prowess is high, says he still needs to level up. She reminds him of how he recklessly confronted Arachne while still at level 1. Meanwhile, Shachiku has a reason for not collecting the magic stones, as he believes they could slow him down while speedrunning. Since he's not doing that now, he decides to explain it to them. He obtains the magic stone from the Orthis he just defeated, and in the eyes of his companions, everything is normal. However, Shachiku reveals that the problem arises with the long cutscene. He reveals that an acquisition of the stone takes 32 seconds, and even if the scene is skipped, the memory loading still makes it about 10. He points out that time is of the essence while speedrunning, so he can't stop to pick up magic stones to level up. Danya asks about the wyvern, and he admits he could have picked up the stone, but ignoring them has become a habit. As usual, Danya and Kira are left puzzled by both his words and actions. However, Kira notes that Danya's voice sounds like she's enjoying herself, reminding her of when they were kids. Danya quickly brushes it aside and suggests they prepare for the Arachne subjugation. A little while later at the Adventurers Guild, Shachiku goes to purify the magic stone for leveling up. They congratulate him for being able to subjugate such a monster even at level 1. Then they start purifying the magic stone in the purifier and a crystallization solvent. Magic stones carry great power, but they also contain miasma. If one absorbs too much, they might turn into a monster, hence the need to purify a stone. The wyvern from their previous encounter absorbed a stone and turned into a monster. The higher creatures are on the food chain, the easier it is for them to become monsters. However, after purification of the stone, humans can safely level up. Shachku goes from level 1 to 4 after absorbing the purified stone, and while he admits that seeing the machine is thrilling, he thinks the cutscene is still too long. Kira reveals that it's time to check Shachku's given skill, as that's the only thing she can trust if she's to let him tag along on their next mission. Otherwise, his level would prove too low to accompany them. Legend has it that the hero from the other world will be blessed with a special skill to defeat the Demon King. Now, the norm would be to check the given skill right after he's summoned, but Shachiku's is a special case because he just ran away. However, Kira asks for his permission this time to check his skill using upper class appraisal. Everyone around gets excited, as they prepare to know what skills the hero is equipped with. Meanwhile, Shachiku is less eager, because he already knows how many given skills he must have at the moment. 0. He knows that in the original game, the promised hero is revealed to have 0 skills at first, disappointing the multitude who expect a lot. The hero only gets to unlock his skills after defeating the Elite Four, as being weak at the start is usually how it goes. So Shachiku is hesitant to disappoint his new NPC friends by letting them appraise him. Surprisingly, they find a skill, but it's written in a strange language that they can only guess is otherworldly. They try to write it down and transcribe the text, but it doesn't translate to anything meaningful. Shachiku admits that the words look like texts from his world, but even he can't translate or transcribe the text. He wonders whether this was caused by him defeating the Demon King with just bugs. Kira cannot wait any longer, and she reveals that the latest development means she must go and subjugate Arachne alone the next day. Everyone is shocked, and they're even more surprised when she reveals she didn't obtain permission from the old sages, but she intends to go on her own accord. They try to talk her out of it, but then she reveals that a great danger is approaching the capital which she must stop. At least she knows she can manage to drive out Arachne, if not do more. Danya tries to talk, but Kira reveals how she's not had enough faith yet in Shachiku and his relatively low level. Even during their outing today, they only obtained 1 shining scale ore. Shachiku's skill is also unknown, so she can't trust him or his methods to guarantee winning yet. She reveals that she's followed Shachiku for half a day only because of Danya. Meanwhile, Shachiku cuts in and reveals he has a strategy. He suggests that if they combine their strengths, Arachne will be easily defeated. The others are appalled by Shachiku nonchalantly speaking about defeating Arachne. Meanwhile, Shachiku says the strategy is more than just wooden sticks this time. He says that what they lack in levels they can make up for in the difference in power or money. Jean recalls mercenary quests, and suggests they can hire S-rank parties that stop by. He also points out they can sell the shining scale ore valued at 10,000 sen. Danya cuts in, reminding them that the money they can get will only hire a B-rank party, as opposed to S-rank. Kira is slowly coming around to the plan, but she points out that she can't add the guild's money or even hers, as the old sages might become aware of their actions. Shachiku smiles sneakily and says that money isn't a problem for him. He asks them to keep what they're about to see a secret, as he's about to show them his otherworldly power. He takes the shining scale ore and a slingshot, and then constantly equips and takes out the ore from the slingshot. He constantly does this while shaking until the ore disappears. He reveals he just made a ghost slingshot, and he takes the ore out from his inventory, revealing multiple ores, 999 to be precise. He suggests they can now sell the ores to make more money. Danya, while impressed, still points out that the market value might make the economy crazy, but Shachiku says that what increased was jewels, not money. He compares what he just did to them finding a new mine. Meanwhile, Kira is at a loss for words. She observes the ores and how perfectly shaped they are. They all look original. She now understands what Shachiku meant by saying he had a strategy. Shachiku and his companions head to the Merchants Guild headquarters to exchange their ores for money. The attendant is blown away by the number of them. She checks to see if they're fake, but her monocle reveals they're all real. She asks the cashier to bring 990,000 sen for the exchange, which is basically all the gold coins they have, in addition to their sales deposits. In the end, they manage to present the full value for the ores. Meanwhile, Shachiku is uncomfortable with the time the exchange is taking, as it counts as a time loss. Shachiku takes the coins on his back and races out, leaving his companions trailing behind. He's taken 3 minutes and 15 seconds at the moment. Luckily, running with the coins is easy for him, as they prepared the previous day by getting some equipment from the peddler. Kira and Danya mumble behind about how Shachiku always leaves them in the dust without explaining his plans. Meanwhile, a messenger bird drops a message, revealing a strong S-rank party is currently at the North Plaza. The Silver Dragon Fang party is here, and it almost looks like they're celebrities among common men, with people asking for autographs. Eliha, the Arc Sorcerer, reveals that their autographs cost 100 sen each. Meanwhile, fluffing Lutal, the tribe's survivor, costs 1,000 sen. She also reveals that one handshake costs 10,000 sen. At this point, the party looks like a mere show-off. Masamu, the party's leader, reminds her they're not entertainers. He asks for Shachiku, as they would love to add him to their party. He asks them to take him to Shachiku, and they're on their way when something interrupts them. It's a look-alike, or what people came to know as the real Silver Dragon Fang party. Apparently, the show-offs are monsters disguised as party members.